The horror is extraordinary, and there are things we didn't report in that, descriptions of what happened that I just don't think we could actually in this time slot. But the thing that bothers me, Israel can say it was a mistake. They were targeting Hamas. There was shrapnel. This is the story they're telling. That there was shrapnel that hit a tank that exploded and so on. And I'm actually not going to dispute that. There's every chance that's what's happened. But that actually, I think, underscores the whole problem with the whole approach that they're taking. It's not an excuse in this occasion. It's evidence. So last week, for example, the International Court of Justice looked at this question of whether Israel should be engaging in Rafah in this way, and they made this point. The court is not convinced that the evacuation efforts and related measures that Israel affirms to have undertaken to enhance the security of civilians are sufficient. So, in other words, Israel hasn't done enough to make it safe, and they went on to make an order that Israel cease its military operation in Rafah on that basis. But we've been warning, not we, the world has been warning about this for ages. This is Emmanuel Macron. This is March. And he, according to Le Monde, told the Israeli Prime Minister that any forced transfer of people from southern Gaza in Rafah, which is where they all are because that's where they were all forced to go to.
They were told it would be safe.
Right. Any transfer from there, which would have to happen when you have an incursion, Macron would consider a war crime. You go back to our own Prime Minister, Penny Wong, this was in February, talking about an invasion of Rafah and what that would mean. This would bring further devastation to more than 1 million civilians seeking shelter there, many there by Israel's direction. Large-scale military operations in densely populated areas risk extensive civilian casualties. Australia believes this would be unjustifiable. Our message to Israel is to listen to the world. Do not go down that path. February 15. Joe Biden, more recently than that, said this. I made it clear. If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah. We're not walking away from Israel's security. We're walking away from Israel's ability to wage war in those areas. Well, it's your move now, Joe, I guess, because this is the point I think that must be grasped. This might have been a mistake, but it was foreseeable. And more than that, it was foreseen. So when that's the situation, when international institutions, when your allies are saying this is what will happen, and then it inevitably happens, can you turn around and say, sorry, it was a mistake? Or do you at some point have to go, we buy the consequences of this and we have to own them?
Who has the answer?
Well, the world will ultimately have the answer. And it'll be really interesting to see if the allies who've said, please don't do this, we don't want you to do this, and even made threats, if they follow through. I suspect they won't.